So welcome to this seminar on Islamic history, culture, and philosophy. It's a lecture presented at the Nigerian Baptist Theological Seminary, Ogbomoso. It's a seminar on world religions. My name is Akintayo Olayinka. The second week, I'm trying to explore Islamic history literature. And the first person I want to examine today is Khalil Athamina. In the previous seminar, I emphasized the need to know our author. We need to know our author to know what they know and what they are presenting to us. Do they have the right to the information they are providing? Do they live around the area? Have they researched the topic very well? So we need to know so that the information will be passing across in our seminars, in academic works, will be authentic. So today I picked Khalil Athamina as an example. He has written on what we're studying, history of Islam, pre-Islamic time. And actually one of the works is the tribal kings in pre-Islamic Arabia. And that kind of title is relevant to this seminar. Somebody exploring and researching pre-Islamic Arabia and examining their kings, their tribal kings. Whatever such a person provides should be relevant, even though we still critically examine it, but we can give an ear to what he has got to say. So I want to examine his work, and that would be to illustrate a good choice of sources for paper writing and research. Athamina has written a lot on pre-Islamic Arabia, on Islam, on Palestine, and the Middle East. Some of the works are referenced here, which I want to mention. Some other works are listed here, which I want to present to us, just to know who we are talking about. And we want to pay attention to his work on pre-Islamic studies. He wrote another one on non-Arab regiments and private militias during the Umayyad period. And the work is published in Arabica, which is the Journal of Arabic and Islamic Studies. It was done 1998. Now, when a piece of work is published in a journal article, we should know that that work has been examined or cross-examined before it can appear in a journal article. Most journal articles required 1 or 2 peer review, meaning that another scholar who probably doesn't know the author has read the work and made suggestions before it was published. So it is not just somebody waking up and just writing story. So the work has been guided, peer reviewed before it will be published, before it will be pushed to other academic to read and for scholars to read. So this one, second book I'm referencing here, was published in the Journal of Arabic and Islamic Studies, which is a peer-reviewed work. So another work by Athamina is Arab and Muhajirun. Arab and Muhajirun in the environment of Ansar. and that one was published in Studia Islamica. And by way of introduction, Muhajirun are the faithful people considered as faithful. They name them as faithful, who followed the Prophet Muhammad at the beginning of his work and revelation. And the Ansars are the helpers who helped him. So this one also is a peer-reviewed article, and meaning that Athamina has interest in the area that we are studying. Another work is Pre-Islamic Roots of the Early Muslim Caliphate, the emergence of Abu Bakr, and that one published in Dar Islam. So, okay, let's go for another one. Abraham in Islamic Perspective, Reflections on the Development of Monotheism in Pre-Islamic Arabia, also published in Dar Islam. Now, what are we saying? If I want to continue on studying or referencing Athamina's work, I will say it is justifiable to read his work. It's justifiable to pay attention to what Athamina is saying. The above papers clearly, from the titles and journal articles where they were published, show relevance to this seminar. Such an author could be relied upon to access information for this course, that is examining the pre-Islamic history, culture, or tradition, and politics or geopolitical situation just before Islam began. Another strength in Athamina's work is that he is associated with the Bazait University in the West Bank from Palestine, meaning that he works and researches within the area that he's writing about. And you can find this information in about the author. When you are reading a particular work, you can examine about the author. Who is this author? So for Athamina, we know that he is a lecturer at Bazait University in West Bank in Palestine. So I may want to choose his work, and I would like to read it and see what that academic is saying about pre-Islamic studies. Now, you may want to pay attention to the university. Take, for instance, Bazait University has been ranked as one of the top 2.7% of universities worldwide by QS World University Ranking in its 2019 edition. So the university has also been ranked first in Palestine for the 6th consecutive year in the Webometrics Google Scholar citation ranking. So I would say, yeah, I will pay attention to and will critically examine Athamina's work. However, such articles, books, and works, being academic research, must be critically examined. We still have to critically examine it, not just to base our review on where it is published and where the person works. It's academic, we still have to critically examine it, critically review it. Because where the author, such author works and what they do can also influence their conclusions, can influence their thoughts, and they may want to be loyal to their employers. So when you examine author's background and everything is positive, you can still ask questions like, but is the person's livelihood attached to it? And okay, I still want to critically examine his work, even though I will accept it as authentic. And like this one, I accept Athamina's work as very authentic, very relevant, and straight to the point, and qualified to speak to me about pre-Islamic history. Well, I would say, could he have done otherwise? Yeah, he could have done otherwise, but the university where he works also is highly ranked. So I will go for him. I will go for this very author, and I will write, I will study his work. I will study his work. Somebody wants to join us. Somebody wants to join us. All right. So I will go for such a person's work. So such articles, books, and works, be academic research, must be critically examined, which we should do for every person's work. And just to avoid any bias that may influence the person's line of thoughts or conclusion. But in summary, I will accept Athamina's work as very relevant for this seminar. Now, back to Athamina's work on pre-Islamic Arabia tribal kings and how he presents the tribal kings or tribal leaders. Athamina's first reference, which I have here, argues that the local tribal leaders were crowned kings. They wore crowns. And also paid attention to the process by which those leaders attained leadership. Now, having examined the background of the author, we now want to look at the content of the author's presentation. Now, Athamina is bringing out the issue of who were the leaders in the pre-Islamic era of Arabia. He's saying, one, the leaders in the pre-Islamic era of Arabia wore crowns on their heads, and also discussed how they attained the position of leadership. How did they attain leadership? Now, in his work, he said that the pre-Islamic Arabia leaders, even though they wore crowns, they were not as magnificent like the kings or emperors of places like Ethiopia or Persia, not as magnificent as those ones, or Byzantine. So references to those pre-Islamic Arabian kings are found in some letters which Muhammad wrote to invite them to join Islam. So this is another important point which we need to pay attention to. How and where did Athamina got his information? He got some of his information from the letter written by Muhammad or associated with Muhammad to invite them to join Islam. So those are the references which he used. And they were leaders, but not very magnificent. Now, as a researcher, I would like to compare those kings with the kings that I know nowadays, because those one happened hundreds of years ago. Now, how can I compare those pre-Arabian kings with the kings that I know? I would say, again, by cross-referencing with kingship in, let's say, Nigeria, those Arabian crowned kings, they were not as magnificent as the Alaafin of Oyo, and not as magnificent as the Oni of Ife, not as magnificent as the Emir of Kano, or the Sultan of Sokoto, or the Shon of Ogbomoso in Nigeria. They were equivalents of local leaders of villages and small towns or settlements in Nigeria. The significance of those Arabian kings is the leadership roles they played among their people. You might have visited some villages before, you know the leaders there, but they gave them crowns. And they are leaders of small settlements. And they were under the control of bigger kings or bigger emperors. But they are coming up into our study because they played significant role of leadership in their small communities. This seems to transfer into the Islamic accepting the culture afterwards, even up to the present day. Muslim communities in many places, but that I know in Nigeria, have leaders in their communities. It could be a small village, there will be a leader there or a king there if they are mostly Muslims. But the question now is, how were the kings recognized in the pre-Islamic era? How were kings recognized? How were they recognized? We've understood that they wore crowns. Are there other things they do? So this will help us to know more, going deeper into leadership structure in the pre-Islamic time. Then later on, we'll see how relevant it is to our own community. So here I want to speak on turban, crowns, and what is locally called lawani as the sign or symbol of authority among Muslim communities. So the use of crowns by leaders had been a symbol of authority among the Arabs since the pre-Islamic era of the people, of the Arab people. Athamina writes further, these kings, or Malik in Arabic, were no more than tribal leaders who wore or bore the title Malik and placed crowns on their heads. Some of them had derived power from the Sassanid emperor who used to grant them crowns. Their scope of authority was mainly local, limited to the specific territory of their own tribes, or in some cases was extended to include other territories by means of a federation of tribes. That's in Athamina's work, 2019, page 37. The first reference I cited here. So the emperors had the duty to nominate and crown tribal leaders, which will be subject to such emperors and empowered to lead their local people or the subjects. So the emperors choose them to lead their local people, and the local people will be subject unto them. So Athamina further suggests the use of a turban among the Arabs to have served the same purpose as a crown in the Persian society. You see, we're now extending from the use of crown by local leaders to the use of turban in another community. You see, now sign of authority is increasing. They use crown, and some other communities, they use turban. And before you see it, we see what is happening in our own contemporary society. We need to understand this as is being discussed among the academics, so also we should see what is happening in our own various local community. So among the Arabs, we have the use of turban, and in Persia, you see the use of crown, or they call it amama or imama in Arabic, which is also known as turban. Turban's equivalence. So this implies that a local leader who is turbaned among the Arabs is a recognized leader. Athamina added that it is significant if red stripe is included among the colors used in designing the turban, just to make it unique as a sign of authority. The activity of assigning a local leader with a turban, therefore, predates Islam and has been a sign of authority in Arabian society. So when you talk of crown or crowning people to become leaders, it predated Islam, and the use of turban also predated Islam. In addition to the emperor initiating the crowning or turban of a leader, Athamina further argues that the resident population can also do the same. So community also can request their leaders to be crowned or to be turbaned. However, there are other examples of people who want to break away from the established authority to request for somebody to be their leader, and that is the one they describe as being rebellious. So to Athamina, the residents' request for the turban of a leader is more honorable and recognized than the one that grows out of a rebellion. 2. The crowns are of various types depending on the quality and the cost of the beads, how heavy the crown is, and beads decoration. There are actually some examples and illustrations of how big a crown could be. There was a particular crown that was so big that the king could not wear it. They had to hang it on the ceiling so that the king will only sit under it. And when he's sitting under it, it'll be as if he's wearing it because the crown was so big. So the quality of the crown, the weight of the crown, the quality of the beads used in making the crown also are very important. 3. Discourses about turban are found mostly in the ancient poems that originated from the region. So we have letters associated with the Prophet Muhammad, and we also have poems written in that area, in that region. 4. Another symbol of authority is the wisada or pillow during the reign of some of the caliphates, like the Abbasid, Ali, Omar, and the Ansar. So the use of pillow, we have the use of crown, we have the use of turban, and the use of special pillow also can be a sign of authority and had been signs of authority. And 5, the leaders or kings' relations and those associated with them were held in a high esteem. So people like to associate with leaders and royalty. So, which is not very different from some places nowadays that people like to be associated with royal family. So also in the pre-Islamic era of Arabia. So considering leadership and authority in Arabia region of the world, turban, crowns, pillows were significant symbols, while those who associated with authorities were held in a high esteem. Even like the present time, among some British, United Arab Emirates, some African societies, name it. You can increase the list. Those who have special love, interest for the royal family. In today's presentation, I've examined critically the work or works of Khalil Athamina, considering who he was, an academic, where he works within the Middle East area, in Palestine, West Bank, the university where he works, well situated and well ranked among the academia, and the type of his work relevant to our seminar. So I want to present this as an example of how to search good works, good author, good material for our research. And I hope you have gained one thing or the other with my own example and illustration of the search of quality material for academic works in humanities in general. I look forward to meeting you again at some point, and I want to encourage you to search more authentic and reliable sources in support or against the use of turbans, crowns, and pillows in the pre-Islamic Arabian community. And I hope we meet again at some point to continue with our presentation and seminar. I'm looking forward to seeing you very soon, and have a nice day, and God bless.